Designcast Podcast, the podcast for design and STEAM educators.
Hello and welcome to Designcast, a podcast where I interview a wide range of excellent guests in design and STEAM education to get their unique perspectives. My name is Jason Reagan, and I use my 20 plus years of experience as a design educator to dig deep into complex issues. This podcast has one simple mission: to create a community of people around the world that are interested in design and STEAM education. Each episode, I chat with guests from all corners of the design world, from classroom teachers to authors and even to educational consultants. We discuss a wide range of topics that we feel are relevant today. I do want to ask you that if you're enjoying this podcast, please leave a review, rate, subscribe, share, or download from your favorite podcasting app. This helps the podcast get discovered by listeners that might not find it otherwise. Also, it helps me to continually define the direction of future guests and episodes. Feel free to drop by my website, www.jasonreagan.ga, to leave me a comment or to sign up to be considered as a future guest on future episodes. Also, don't forget to stop by Anchor and leave me a voice clip that could even end up in an upcoming show. Thanks for listening, so let's get to it. For this episode of Designcast, I had a great follow-up chat with Jon Halligan. Jon was a guest on episode 26 of this podcast. This was a chance for me to catch up with Jon and to hear all about the great work he is doing in Switzerland. This is the first of a two-part episode, as we had so much to talk about that I had thought it was best to break it up into two sections. Next week, you will be able to hear the conclusion of this awesome chat. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this chat with Jon Halligan.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get on to the episode.
Welcome back to another episode of Designcast, and it is such a pleasure and a privilege to have my friend Jon Halligan back. Jon, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you very much. It's a lovely day in the neighborhood. I'm sure that's an American phrase from some show. But no, it's all good, my friend. Busy as always, but always pleased to take time out to talk to you.
Oh, thank you, Jon. That's such a humbling thing for you to say, and I do appreciate it. And so for listeners who have not had a chance to listen to my first chat with Jon, it is available in an earlier episode of Designcast, which I'll put in the show notes. But we're just having a follow-up here, Jon. And so a year ago, we talked about your dream and what you were working on. So can you just sort of recap for me what's happened in the last year to 18 months for you?
What's happened? It feels like 10 years, my friends. It feels like 10 years. Oh my gosh, right. A quick recap. Well, first and foremost, I used to be the head of development and recognition at the IB in a lovely, safe job doing good work. And then after getting a little bit sort of frustrated with some of the issues in education. Very quickly, my sort of education view on education is that it should be interesting, meaningful, purposeful, relevant, relatable, engaging. There should be a degree of choice and personalization, but and beyond even just one brand. And it should allow students to sort of follow their passion and advance to the next stage, whether that's going to be into a job or into university. And part of my work in the IB was around recognition. And it's so hard because you literally, I mean, the IB's been around a long time, and getting countries or universities to recognize the IB was proving difficult. And I couldn't understand why this was, because it's all about choice. At the end of the day, it's all about student choice. And, there was lots of different reasons why recognition is hard, from protectionism, lack of understanding, regulations, self-interest, political uncertainty. There's lots of things, but mostly inertia. And you either make a decision there and then that if you have this core belief, you either do something about it, or you become a keyboard warrior, or you just put up with it and say, well, that's fine. Now, I have kids that are going in, or were at the time going into those last years of education, 16 to 18, and I was faced with an opportunity to go and see if I could make a difference. So we, myself and a colleague, left the IB, secured funding, and began our journey with V-Education to try and make a difference and meet a need or solve a perfect problem. And I can talk about that later, but basically where it's taken us, and well, in order to do something like this, you need a healthy dose of willingness to do something, and I suppose you could say entrepreneurship, but I think any form of entrepreneurship requires a high degree of naivety, because probably if I knew now what I didn't know then, I don't know if I'd have done it. But as it is, I am, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And we've basically, where we are at the moment, the point that you're meeting me at now is we have a fully authorized IB school in Montreux with 2 career paths that are accelerated in business and hospitality and business and digital marketing. We have a platform, V Academy, that is now fully operational. And I'll talk more about that later, both as a career provider, but also a provider of short courses and whole school solutions. We're about to open up our second school in Neuchâtel, which is an IB candidate school with a slightly different model. And we're developing 3 more career-related studies and a whole raft of short courses. I should pause for breath here. So that's where we are at the moment, Jason.
Man. So, Jon, when we talked last time, you were in the throes of planning all this out and navigating the government, the different government entities, and navigating this pandemic that we are still sort of in, but hopefully, in the fingers crossed, in the near future, it will sort of become a past to us. But this is so exciting because I've been keeping in touch with you over the last year, and you've only recently completed the authorization to be a CP school, which is exciting. And not everyone here listening to this will understand the difference between the diploma program and the career related program. But how difficult was it for you to go through the process of becoming a CP school without having a diploma program?
To be fair, Jason, that wasn't particularly difficult, because the people involved in implementing the program at the start, we knew the program inside out and backwards and forwards, and had implemented it in multiple schools with multiple heads prior to leaving the IB. So, in terms of the process, not really particularly that difficult, and we actually managed it in I think we did it in about 10 months, as opposed to sort of 18 to 24. We then brought on staff, and again it's getting the right people as well, the right head, the right CP coordinator. We wanted staff that had an industry background as well as an education background, because we need to constantly flip between those 2 contexts. and be able to ground the education that we're doing in the school with real world stories and context from the teachers themselves and experiences and shared experiences. So the recruiting aspect, we were extremely lucky. We put a great team together. We launched slightly differently. I mean, part of our journey and understanding the implications of the pandemic was, look, when you open up a school normally, it's usually a sort of anything between a $5 and a $10 million undertaking. It's a lot of heavy investment up front. It's a lot of time up front. But the pandemic does, it provided us with an opportunity to relook at that and go, well, is there a different way to do this? And we decided to go down a sort of a rather more innovative route, and we went through what we call a school-in-school methodology. So we're a school within a school. So we've got a partner as a host school. That allowed us to put in a much more focused teaching body. So we really recruited very much looking at the qualities of the staff we were bringing in. And I mentioned earlier one of the items that we looked for, the criteria, which we managed to put in quite a lean but effective staff model in there, because that's where we were using the majority of our budget. The deal we've got with our partner is very much a fee per student. So we're able to focus our efforts and budget on the quality of the curriculum, the quality of the teachers, and the quality of the learning that's going to take place within the school.
Okay. And does that mean that you are going to eventually build a campus, or are you going to maintain this school in a school model?
I think, look, schools for us, because look, we're concentrating on the last 2 years of education, or potentially maybe the last 4 years in terms of what we traditionally call school. School can be anything. School could be a school in industry, a school in a university, a school in a school. I think the model is flexible. As long as you're true to what you want to do. We want to go down very much a sort of professional approach. So we're looking at opportunities within universities, within other schools, within industry, okay, in order to set up our slightly different model. I mean, if you're looking, if parents are looking for a school where you can, ski out the back door, since we're in Switzerland, that's probably not us.
No. Right.
It's 45 minutes for us, but we're looking to where we can create efficiencies, and we pass those efficiencies then onto the parents. But also, we don't want to scrimp on the thing that's most important, and the thing that's most important is the education of that student, the professionalization of that learning, the acceleration of that learning, which is what we're about anyway, and the authenticity of that learning. In terms of the extracurricular, it's about helping them manage their time. Okay, so not necessarily. I've never, once I left school and university, nobody ever provided me with hour slots to do physical education in or anything like that. Right. It just didn't happen. I had to organize my life and find time and look for when I could do things and pursue my own passions. So whilst there is a lot of opportunities, it's about helping those students to manage their time as well effectively.
Absolutely. You said a lot there, Jon, and I appreciate that. And you're right. I mean, and let's be honest, the heart of the CP is personalized learning pathways for students, to get them to where they want to go, the passion that they want to follow, that's the skills that they feel that they have, that's the uniqueness. And so I think you're right. I kind of wish maybe my PE class was once a day, but it's definitely not at the moment. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I love the way you said that. And so that's really exciting. And so you guys got up and running. How many students do you have at the moment?
Oh gosh, now you're going to ask me the recruitment question. Let me think.
Oh, sorry.
I should have rung him this morning. We've got a guy that runs all that. To be honest with you, Jason, Montreux is in my rearview mirror. I'm already now focused on Neuchâtel. What are we? Last time I checked, I think we were up at 20, 30, something like that. So it's progressing. You do face. Look, we're a new school within a current school. We're not looking to build. We're not going to be a 200 capacity school. We're a school within a host school. So we're looking to get up to, probably. I suppose our ambition is, 50 to 100 once we're fully mature. But it's about creating multiple opportunities for those students. And bear in mind, we are the first CP only school in Switzerland, and there's not that many CP schools in Switzerland as well. So one of the things that we've been concentrating on, and you picked up earlier, is really about being able to differentiate yourself from the DP. So, being able to tell parents, okay, this is the DP and this is the CP, and put it in terms that allows parents to understand the key differences.
Yeah, that's been the number one challenge, I would say, for me and probably every single CP coordinator I've ever spoken to, is being able to differentiate between those two, but also see how they are symbiotic in a sense when it comes to the CP. Is that you need one, which it is what it is. We know that's the current system. But that's great growth that you've had that many already, in your programs. And so tell me about the CP providers that you've started to create.
So, basically what we've done, it's probably easier to sort of take you back on the journey a little bit, to see where, because we're sort of we're an interesting organization in as much that we have schools and we are our own CP provider, and we have our own CP provider platform as well. Because that's part of our philosophy is to develop these programs and then not become an island, but actually share them out and provide multiple opportunities for students globally. So we have a platform called V Academy, www.v-academy.com. That's my little plug. And what we did was, look, in the first instance, we needed to develop a career-related study that managed to fit our school. Okay, and we worked with a higher education partner to develop that. We created a 30-credit, 10-unit, 2-year course in business and hospitality that comes with a minimum of 2 terms, maximum of 1 year advanced standing in a 3-year degree, with a certain education provider. Once we'd done that and secured that, we then had to reimagine that and look at it. What does that look like in an online environment? We had to go through, adapting it to digital pedagogies, then also looking at how it would be implemented in a school. So going through a standardization and quality assurance process to ensure that course could be delivered in school. So it's the way we've structured the course for the CRS in the first instance is that it is it's a online resourced, school facilitated. So we believe that there should be a teacher in the room. So the course is all laid out. A teacher can facilitate it. And for the business and hospitality, literally a business management teacher, or in fact, pretty much any teacher, we tried to almost put it to the point where it could be delivered by anyone. And that's why we've really looked at the standardization. So that all the delivery material is there, the lessons are planned out, the structure of the lesson is there, the materials are available online that the students can self-pace week by week under the control of a teacher. All assessment, though, is centrally marked and moderated with feedback to the students. Where we need to do an intervention based on what we're seeing, we have the staff at the academy to go in and do synchronous, asynchronous lessons should we need to. And also then all exams are held on our secure platform, so they can be run in school or run, if we go back to lockdown, in a student's home, because they're timed, they've got control screens, etc. on that. So full quality assurance and standardization in there that allow students to, if their passion is business and hospitality, to follow that route. So it took us a long time to structure those pieces together, and we really had to, it's that whole problem chain where you find a solution, creates another problem, then you have to adapt, find a new solution that then transforms what you were originally doing, and then you have to go back and go, is it still relevant to what we're trying to achieve? So it's taken, the word iterative doesn't really make it anymore. But no, we believe we've got there in terms of the CRSs. We've got 3 more on track now with other partners. And we've also got a fantastic series of short courses as well, because as we were developing the academy, the feedback we were getting as well, because we do a lot of outreach to schools, was that it's not just about a 2-year course. 2-year course for CP schools is great, thank you. Is it going to be available to other schools if you did 2 A levels in it? Could they do it? Yes, you could. But actually, there's quite a demand for smaller, shorter, more punchier courses as well. What we call 15-hour short courses. So we developed a suite of, before we developed, we wanted to know what do we want to do? What do we think's missing? And so we were lucky enough to bring on Brett Schilker. I don't know if you know him. He works with the National Centre for Humane Technology. Prior to that, with Singularity. He's got his own company called Irresistible Futures. Lovely guy. And we're developing a suite of courses called Thrive, which is a set of 6 shorter courses that schools can take. And it's all about our relationship with technology, the ethics, some of the hard ethical decisions around exponentialism and humanism, where those 2 things clash. Just because we've got the technology, should we? So there's a suite of, and really also understanding yourself and being mindful of yourself, which is needed more than ever, to be honest with you, post-pandemic. And we've got another set of courses all around global, what we call global perspectives, which is understanding the world at large and the world that you're going into. I think we used to call it global citizenship, but also then the engagement with global issues and some of those global issues that are shaping the world that those students are going to, or impacting the world that the students are going to graduate into. So we've just launched one with actually today, funnily enough, with Youth Underground, which is a charity based out of Geneva that is looking to educate students on the real, very real and scary problem of human trafficking. So we developed a course for them, and we've put that out free for schools to adopt, should they want to. And it's all, like I say, they can follow that. So we've moved quite far in terms of the academy, just so we're a career-related service provider, we're a short course provider, and then the final thing we did, because we kept getting requests, we've put a whole school services and school support section together as well, Jason, because we were having schools coming to us saying, actually, it's quite hard to implement the IB.
Yep.
Imagine
that.
Imagine that. And I know the IB are doing their best with making it easier, but from a school perspective, the journey can be quite a long journey. And so we've put sort of a suite of courses, pre-CP teacher development courses in play, and also, just trying to share some of our experience and make life a little bit easier, the navigation a little bit easier. It always has to be the school's journey, but sometimes it's quite nice to be able to give schools a leg up, or sometimes just to say, yeah, you're doing absolutely fine, you're on the right lines, that's exactly what you should be doing, and being that sort of, I'm going to use a very well-trodden IB term, that critical friend.
Yeah. And if you've got someone as your critical friend from the IB who's your consultant and they're on top of things, it's probably okay. But that's not always the case. Some of these folks have not been in an IB school for many years, and they may not even have the most current information to share with you. So I'm sure that schools appreciate having that. That's awesome, Jon. I'll tell you what, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Jason. Look, like every student, every school's journey is different. And for some schools, implementing the IB is it's a walk in the park for them. It's absolutely fine. For other schools, they've got a longer journey. And that's all we're trying to do is we want more IB schools as well, particularly CP ones. And if we can help, if we can help grow that community, then that's a positive impact for us.
Could not agree more, Jon. I have a couple things I want to ask you to follow up. Number one,
Sure.
So that means, do you have a staff of people at V Academy and then a staff of people at Montreux International School? Is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Okay. So those V Academy folks are the ones who are helping with the synchronous and asynchronous online learning. These are the industry people that we were talking about before?
These are the subject specialists. Okay. As we mature, so will the number mature as well. But we're focused around what we're developing, and we've got 3 really interesting courses coming up as well, which I can talk about should you want me to.
And I will definitely want to hear about that. And so this Thrive course you're talking about, when you describe it, it sounds a lot like some of the topics that are talked about in the personal and professional skills course. Is there is that just coincidence, or is that, they sound really familiar.
You mean coincidence by design?
Coincidence, happenstance, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I think to be fair, yes, it's coincidence, but yes, it's also been designed that way. What we don't want to do, look, every school's PPS curriculum should be contextual to that school. We just think we were developing Thrive first, and we felt that this was very much a worthy cause to develop courses that explored self, position in the world, ethics, particularly, like I say, around our relationship with technology, and the tension, as I said before, around, just because we've got the technology, should we type thing? These big questions that we need to ask ourselves. The fact that the IB have the same thought, I'm sure that there's the same thoughts in AP, and I'm sure there's the same thoughts in A level. I think it's just probably good ed practice, but coincidence. We'll call it coincidence.
Yep, absolutely. Jon, I say at the beginning of every workshop I conduct, and that is, good teaching is good teaching. And it doesn't matter what framework or context you're in, good teaching is good teaching. So,
Agreed.
Same thing here. And so, man, that's awesome. That's some cool, great stuff going on. And so, I had a couple questions for you, just as a follow up. So when you've got these V Academy courses and they're being taught, like I believe you said, online resource, school facilitated. If that school, let's say that school is based in China, for example, is there leeway, is there latitude for that school to contextualize the course so that it works in their situation. So business management, the principles of that are going to be similar, but there's going to be some practices that are going to be different depending on where the student is at. So how does that work with your online academy?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, if I talk about business hospitality, for example, hospitality is culturally relevant, but also it needs to be culturally agnostic as well in the same breath. So it needs to be culturally relevant in that students will have the experience to be able to contextualize it. If you use your China example, the culinary arts in China, I think we've got one piece on prepping for a Chinese wedding, for example, as opposed to prepping for an Arabic wedding, opposed to maybe a UK wedding. These things are culturally different. So there is quite a lot of bandwidth and scope within the course because it's the skills that you're developing and the concepts, and all of those can be contextualized to your environment. You also want to sort of understand the sort of the standards that you have to reach, but the route that you meet those standards is contextual. As we move into our other courses, that's the other thing that we'll be also stressing is that it's the skills concepts to meet the standards, and the context needs to be local, let's say. So local relevance, then global understanding.
Love it. That's a great way to say that. I could make that the title of this episode. But I'm not going to, but it could. I totally could.
Okay.
So that's great, Jon. Awesome. I hope that you enjoyed the first half of this chat with Jon Halligan. Remember to check out the second half of the chat with Jon next week. I hope you enjoyed that episode of DesignCast. I'm Jason, your host, and I produced and created this podcast. If you have any input, I would love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you again really soon.